So the addition of the Ironworks collection 5 years ago was really a turning point for Initial Outfitters and the differentiation in our line. It was something that was so incredibly different from anything else that was on the market, and we knew that we loved it, but we didn't know how anyone else would receive it. Fortunately, everybody else loved it just as much as we did. But the thing about it is the line that we have today looks absolutely nothing like the line that we saw when we first saw it. It was more museum-like jewelry with big stones, just gorgeous stones and contemporary lines in it. And the line we have today is totally different. There was nothing engravable there when we first saw it. But we asked, what happens if you scratch it? And fortunately, what happens when you scratch it is that gorgeous base metal comes out and this monogram just shines through there, and it just looks absolutely beautiful. So we were so excited about that. Given the success of Ironworks, we really pushed hard to get more finishes, and that's where the vintage silver and the old gold finishes came from. Was because Ironworks had been so popular, we wanted something else that was different and totally unique to Initial Outfitters. Now, the techniques that are used to make these finishes are very proprietary. They're very closely guarded secrets. There's only a handful of people, even in the workshop, that know how to apply those finishes. But what I can tell you about it is that there's this secret recipe. And you go in the workshop and there's this little coffee can and this little jelly jar, and they're literally taking a paintbrush and painting this secret recipe of chemicals onto the pieces. And then, this is crazy, they take a blowtorch and they blowtorch that finish to bring out the colors in the patina. And once they've done that the first time, they then take another secret recipe, pass it over it again, blowtorch it again, and then they come up with that final finish that you have. But that's still not the end of the process, because the next step is the buffing wheel, where they go and they hit each piece on the buffing wheel so that, where you can see the corners of the pieces. Sometimes the base metal is coming through, and that's done very intentionally, piece by piece, so that each piece gets a very old, vintage, well-worn look that really makes it a unique, one-of-a-kind work of art. The people who make this for us, they work very, very closely with us, and the relationship that we have with him is really phenomenal. It's to the point that he's actually told his other clients, I'm so sorry, but I can't work with you anymore. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Part of the reason is because our volume with this line is so huge now, because it's so wildly popular. The other part of the reason, though, is because of the relationship that we've developed with him. And he really wants to protect the uniqueness of the Initial Outfitters line, because he believes, just as we believe, that this is going to grow and continue to represent huge volume for him and for us. But speaking of relationships, that's something that is really important to us, something that we've worked very hard to develop over the years there in Mexico with our vendors, not just him, but with all of our vendors. Some of the relationships that we have go back almost 2 decades now, and it's really fun to think about it, because they remember the first time that we went there, and they talk about it a lot, but we also remember what their business was like when we first went there. And several of them were just starting out in a tiny little room just like we were. And as we've grown and become one of their most important clients, they've grown and become one of our most important vendors. And so we've been able to know them, know their businesses forever. We know their kids, we know their grandkids. We've even been asked to be godparents to a set of twins there in Mexico. It's something that's very, very important to us, and it's something that has really made a difference in terms of the selection that we have to choose from, the quality that we get, the response that we have. And it's also fun to know that as we've been building a business here in the United States, it's also been benefiting and making a difference for families there in Mexico. because this is a relationship business. And those are families and real people that are making our pieces one by one every day.
Every piece in the Vintage Silver, Ironworks, and Old Gold collections are custom designed by our product development team here at the home office in collaboration with our artisans in Mexico. We look for inspiration for the designs just about anywhere we can and in some of the most interesting places. We look at what's trending in fashion and create our own sketches. And this time for our fall collection, Alicia and I were actually at the airport waiting on a flight that was delayed and decided it was a great time to start sketching. So we got out a notebook and just got inspired. It was so much fun, and within about an hour or so, we just had pages and pages of new designs for these collections for fall. And it was so exciting just for it to come to life that quickly. We actually ended up with so many designs that we're having to save some for spring. As we were, looking through our sketches, we both kind of agreed that we needed a new font for these designs to really make sense and really come to life. So we are introducing a new font for fall. We also look at windows, mirrors, and decorative ceilings to find unique shapes that would be beautiful and different in a pendant. We look at iron gates, window grates, and iron railings. We look at rugs, tiles, and curtain designs. And then we sit down with our primary artisan in Mexico and perfect the designs and really bring them to life. And because the new pendant designs for these collections this fall are so intricate, the way that they're made is in Mexico, they create steel molds. So what that is, it's a block of steel, and they engrave our pendant design onto the block of steel. And then a sheet of metal is rolled out in the desired thickness for our pendant, and the steel mold is stamped onto it. And then someone literally takes a saw and cuts out each pendant. So it's really hand done and completely handmade in Mexico. So once the pendant shape is cut out, they make the jump rings or the barrel and solder it to the top, and there you've got your base pendant. The pendant is then sanded, buffed, and cleaned, so the secret recipe that Alicia told you about just a minute ago can be applied. And as a result of all of this effort, we end up with a completely unique, absolutely gorgeous collection that is a hands-down favorite for you and your customers.